Good evening, members, officers, members of the public. Welcome to our Cabinet meeting. We have 15 items on the agenda this evening. I am going to change the order of the meeting slightly because I'm presuming that our guests are not here to talk about the transfer of control for BTCM. So we're going to move the local plan, the Reg 18, a little bit further up the agenda so that we can deal with that first and then allow anybody who wants to leave at that point. But let us kick off. Agenda item number 1 is apologies for absence. We have a full house, so there is no apologies for absence. Do we have any declarations of interest? Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Essex County Council.
Councillor McGurran. Yes, sir. On block then, the county members. Any other declarations? No? Okay, thank you, members. The minutes is agenda item 3, the minutes of the previous 2 meetings held on the 10th and the 15th of October. They are on pages 7 to 22 of the agenda. Are there any matters arising from the minutes? In which case, I'll take a vote on both of the minutes en bloc. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. That is unanimous. Okay, I'm going to move agenda item 9 now, the Regulation 18 consultation on the draft local plan to this agenda item, and to introduce this report, Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Leader. So tonight we're here to discuss item agenda 9, but we're also setting the stage for Basildon's future, the future of our economy, our communities and our families. Launching Reg 18 consultation is a significant moment in the local plan process. It's an invitation for every resident, business and stakeholder to have their say in what they want for Basildon's future. The local plan is built on solid, forward-thinking policies designed to secure Basildon's place in a thriving economic hub. At its core, it's about building a borough where businesses can flourish, where employment opportunities are abundant, and where our town centres become vibrant, dynamic spaces, places that people want to visit, invest in, and make their homes. We're planning for growth, but not just any growth. It's targeted, it's sustainable, and it is balanced. We're prioritising a strong settlement to ensure new housing and employment land meets Basildon's specific needs, based on the evidence that is collected. Our policies aim to establish an economy that supports both large employers and local entrepreneurs, like creating jobs, supporting skills and development, and providing spaces where businesses need to grow and innovate. This is our moment to bring together our communities and to let them be part of this vision. Through online surveys, public events, social media feedback and forums, we can enable people to use the Common Space platform to have their voice. It is important that every resident, every business, every stakeholder has their say. We are asking them at this time to look at the sites that have come forward, whether that be for homes or employment, and give us their views. We are an administration that listens. Our consultation on the waste strategy proves that we are an administration that will listen. By advancing this Reg 18 consultation today, we are setting the wheels in motion for a local plan that will guide Basildon's economic growth and unlock our potential. Let's make sure this plan reflects our ambitions, but also let's make sure that every resident, every business, every stakeholder has their say. What I am asking you to do tonight is not to get wrapped up in the details of each site, not to get wrapped up in whether you do or do not like particular parts of this plan. What I'm asking you to do is to approve the next stage. This next stage is about allowing those stakeholders to have their say. And so I would recommend that we follow the recommendations tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. I'm going to open this up now to the only opposition leader, the leader of the opposition. Do you wish to come in, Councillor Baggott?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I've got a question to officers if I can, and then I've got a further commentary after that, if that's okay. The question of the officers refers to page 103 of the agenda and the categorisation of settlements. I'm just curious how Noak Bridge is being categorised as a large town and what formula was used or what methodology was used to categorise Noak Bridge as a large town, please.
Okay, so Councillor Baker, if you ask all of your questions at once, we're going to take them en bloc.
Was that a question or a demand? A statement. No, I've only got one question, then I've got a statement. Oh, okay. Okay, if it's going to be en bloc. I understand that this Regulation 18 is something that we are putting out to the public, and quite rightfully the public should have a say. But of course, a consultation is only as good as the data that goes with it. And the document that's here shows a stark juxtaposition to our position as administration and this current administration. Because when we were actually putting together the local plan, we were very, very clear and very, very forceful that the idea of a number of houses, which was done by an algorithm, which was a one-size-fits-all across the country, didn't work. We were very, very clear and wrote to the Secretary of State constantly. This was our government, and we were quite happy to actually take on our government on that particular issue. And we got our MPs supporting us to do so. We were also very, very clear that one of the key cornerstones of a local plan should be infrastructure first. What we see within this developer's charter that's being presented is a 27,000 homes projected to be built that are not accompanied by any real evidence, an administration that has not had the bottle to take on their own government and say these numbers need to be checked or we don't agree with these numbers. We've seen a complete about turn by the head of planning, who we sat down with during our administration and was all pro infrastructure first. And now all of a sudden, and it's incongruent, that now they're saying infrastructure first doesn't work, you can't do it. And that level of incongruence has never really been satisfactorily explained. So we have concerns about the fact that it's going out to consultation in the format it is, because as it is a developer's charter. It's an administration that is rolling over and having its tummy tickled by the government. Now, I know that you have the right to reply and you will finish, and I'm sure that you will use that to either make personal attacks or attacks on the administration. And that's your right, and that's the way it is. But what we want you to do, or what we would expect you to do, is to represent your residents, as you were elected to do, to the best of your ability, and imposing 27,000 homes on this borough without infrastructure, without a plan, just doesn't make sense. I mean, when I sat down with South Essex councils a couple of years ago, and they were putting together a master plan for Essex, I asked the question, this population, it's not going to be an organic growth. This has to be imported. The statistics and all the statistics you see do not sustain or support the idea that these numbers of homes are going to be organically derived from a population increase internally. It can only be from external. And if it's external, we need to understand where these people are coming from. Because if you're going to do proper planned urban design or a proper spatial strategy, you need to understand the people that are coming into the area, what their hopes are, what their ambitions are, what they want, not just design something hodgepodge. And what we're seeing here is development creep already across the borough, without any infrastructure, without any thought of infrastructure, without any plan for infrastructure, and an acknowledgement almost that, in fact, we can't do it. We've got to let the developers go first, and the infrastructure will come second. That is not sustainable. It won't sell the public. It's not fit for purpose. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Brown.
Thank you. I'm going to hand over to my officers in a moment to be able to answer some of your technical questions. What I would like to say is we need to bear in mind the purpose of this consultation. The purpose of this consultation is to allow our residents to have a say on each of those sites that have come forward. We are allowing our residents and stakeholders to say how they feel about those things. I find it quite unnerving. You're talking about personal attacks when you're attacking our officers. Personal attacks when you're talking about the integrity of this administration. And I really do think that that's not acceptable tonight, and that is not a place for tonight. Tonight is about allowing our residents and businesses to have their say. For far too long, that has been held up by your decision to not continue with the process of the local plan. You might say that we shouldn't be thinking about the numbers and we should be rowing back on those. We know exactly what happened when you did that last time. The Secretary of State said they would intervene. It is important that we are following... Thank you, Councillor Baggott. I think I'm speaking. It is important that we follow the regulations, that we follow the process that we have been asked to follow. This part of the consultation is about residents, businesses, all stakeholders, which, yes, includes developers, having their say about what the sites that have come forward, whether that's for homes or employment. This idea that there is no evidence for that calls into question the integrity and the expertise of our officers. That is not acceptable this evening. Likewise, you call into question why people might want to come to Basildon. Well, let's face it, when you were in administration, there wasn't a lot to bring them here. We are far more ambitious. We are looking to regenerate Basildon, to offer high-skilled jobs, employment opportunities, skills, and a life for people that choose it. Whether you're coming from Birmingham like yourself or Bradford like I did, Basildon should be a place where you can come, where you can raise a family the way I did, the way you did, and that there are employment opportunities for you and homes that you would want to live in. Yes, and hospitals and schools and roads, all of which come forward through the economic growth that this plan allows for. So I'm not having you calling into question the expertise or integrity of my officers or what this plan wishes to do. This plan is for the future of this borough. I'm now going to hand over to my officers so that they can answer some of the technical questions you asked regarding Note Bridge. Thank you.
Councillor Baggott, I presume you're relating to policy SG2 settlement hierarchy, where the highest level town we have is Basildon, and Basildon incorporates Langdon, Langdon Hills, Note Bridge and Pitsea. Now, if Note Bridge Parish Council want to make any comment on that, then I suggest that's part of the consultation response Note Bridge puts forward. Now I turn to the matter of infrastructure, and that matter is very key to the plan and all plan making. And we have gone to great measures in terms of the emerging plan, and it is mentioned in the plan at a number of places. INF1, infrastructure delivery, picks that matter up, and it goes on to INF2, securing infrastructure contributions. I'd like to read you a small section of the plan, because obviously you haven't, just to make sure you've read the right section. It says that the Council's infrastructure delivery plan sits alongside the local plan. This assesses the current status of infrastructure across the borough and identifies the new infrastructure investment required to support the borough's sustainable growth. This includes community infrastructure, community buildings and libraries, transport, that's highways, cycle, pedestrian facilities, rail, bus travel, management and car parking, emergency services, fire, ambulance and police, and all the necessary utilities and services. This IDP is a live document produced to identify the range of infrastructure types and projects required to support this growth. Importantly, it identifies funding sources, delivery agents, timescales and priorities. It will be typically updated every 2 or 3 years, while funding for infrastructure may come from a variety of sources, including the council, government departments, public agencies, utility services and providers, and private development sector. So basically, we have thought about infrastructure, and it is a key part of our plan. So from our perspective, delivery infrastructure will be the key part of overall delivery, and it's already spelt out very strongly in our emerging plan.
I think that's what you call a mic drop moment, to totally shut a councillor up. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can I ask a question first to Councillor Brown through the chair and then speak? Councillor Brown, could you confirm on the record that the area committees will be able to decide where these public meetings will take place as a part of the Regulation 18 consultation? because it's important that residents get full accessibility to submit their views and comments, please.
So as part of the consultation process, it's really important that all residents have the opportunity. And so we will be holding meetings in public where the residents can come along as businesses, developers, to ask questions and be informed. We have an external company that will be running those meetings, and one will take place in each of the area committee areas. I do not at this present time have the dates, but perhaps my officers, if they've got the date for those, I don't know them off by heart, I will hand you over. But yes, each area committee will have a public meeting in which residents, businesses, developers, etc., all stakeholders will be able to engage with the process, ask questions, and be able to, where needed, help and access to the online platform to be able to comment. But I will hand you over.
Councillor Smith, we haven't got those dates arranged yet, but once they are arranged, they will be in every area committee area. And also we will be having sessions. If people can't meet those areas, they can come in, and one of our officers will be available to help people through the online system. And also they can arrange separate phone calls to help them move through the system if they can't navigate the commonplace platform whilst at home.
Well, that's good relief for residents. The area committees governed by their local councillors will be able to decide where the public consultations can take place to ensure everyone has full accessibility and able to speak. There's a few things I want to go over with this. To me, this is like Groundhog Day whenever I hear the word local plan come up. For veteran members, it's something you reach for, something strong, aspirins, anodines, matchsticks to keep your eyes open. If this was the Duke of York, his army would have resigned and gone AWOL. We've been up and down that hill so many times, and the last local plan, I understand, cost £2 million, which is gone. Gone ski. Never see that money again. And when it come to the vote on proceeding with that previous local plan in the spring of 22, my group was happy to help the Conservative administration, who was split on this issue, have the votes to proceed. And every time we have binned a local plan, it's cost more money and the numbers of people have gone up. And if people keep up to date with current affairs, the fear of God should be going through any responsible councillor's spine after seeing what happened in Swale last week. Not even the councillors had a chance. The officers dicked around, to use that term of phrase, and said, we're not approving this development of 8,000 homes. And the government has gone, bang, we've approved it and you're going to lose planning function. Now, there's parts of this I'm not happy with. There's parts of it my constituents are not happy with. But we have to proceed, because if we ditch this tonight, someone from Whitehall will come down and someone from Whitehall will say, Councillor Adele Brown, you're fired. Christine Lyons and your team, you're sort of fired. And someone from Whitehall, who doesn't know where Basildon is, will make the numbers higher, make it far worse for everybody, and we will be another example to be made of. So we either act responsible now and allow this item, which is the public consultation, allow the public to make their case, and then we can proceed forward. The 14 years of going whatever are gone. If we are not adults and deal with this properly, then this will be taken away from us. Just as a child loses its toys and gets a smack bum. That's what happens if we act stupid tonight. There are no other options. We grab this ball by the horn and proceed. It is good to hear there's this consultations, and it's positive to see. I always feared in a new local plan that county council might offer up their land along Dry Street and submit that for planning, so it's good it's not in there. I will naturally be helping my residents with fobbing, that's listed in this document, because that's a perfect site. The residents want to do some plotland infill and solve the problems, so there's an opportunity of Regulation 18 for the residents there to make their case. In the previous local plan that got voted out, Dunton was safe, and the one we done before that, Dunton was safe. And in this one, Dunton's back on there. Now, what I have said to my residents, you must use Regulation 18. You must make the case. I think there's a good argument against it. Having that green buffer between us and the borough of Thurrock and Brentwood. That's planning law. But Regulation 18 will allow residents to make that case, because if we as councillors go, well, we don't want that site, we don't want that site, without any evidence, the government is going to step in and tell us, you're fired and you are going to get caned so badly by Whitehall with extra homes, and infrastructure will be at the bottom of their priority. We will be set out, for example, as punishment. So let's take the medicine knowing that we can go forward and make that educated argument with the assistance of residents for the pros and cons of this document. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I just want to sort of realign what we're here tonight to do. We represent our residents. We do not know what every resident thinks about the sites that have come forward, either that's for homes or employment land. This is our opportunity to say to our residents, we want to hear from you. We want to know what you think. We're not going to tell them what we think tonight. Tonight, for our residents, it is irrelevant whether I like a certain site or I don't. Likewise, I'm sorry, Councillor Smith, it's irrelevant if you do or don't like a site. Tonight is about saying to our residents, to our businesses, to all stakeholders, we want to hear your voice. And we have gone through a process by ensuring the consultation period is extended, and to also ensure that it is accessible as possible, so that every voice can be heard. And that is what tonight is about. It's about saying, as your representative, I will listen to you. Tell me what you think. And I think that we need to ensure that we stay focused on that, that's part of Reg 18 is saying, this is the sites that have come forward, let me hear your voice.
Thank you. Any other member of the Cabinet? Councillor Power.
Thank you. Firstly, I think that we should give thanks and support to our officers and the passion of Councillor Brown. The work it takes to get to this stage of the Reg 8 consultation is no small feat, and it brings together volumes of data that sits behind the policies that are set out in this document. So I do think we need to give thanks and, congratulate them on the effort that it takes to get to this point. It's important for the future growth of this borough that to have a robust, well thought out and a holistic approach taken towards our local plan, and the one that's set out tonight needs our residents, businesses and stakeholders' support. We need a plan that doesn't only look at the housing needs, but of the wider economic prospects of the borough and how we look to attract businesses and showcase Basildon as a great place to be, but also how we help support our businesses grow within the borough. For this to happen, we need to ensure that Basildon is an attractive place to live, work and raise a family, and for our residents to have their say. The purpose of this consultation is to outline the principles of the local plan, and this consultation covers all aspects of this and really proves that this is about more than where and when we build a few houses. This consultation sets out strategic objectives tailored to the needs of Basildon with a robust plan for the delivery. I could talk to dozens of points from this 1,000-page report, but I will only mention a few. And we do highlight in this report the extensive floor space available within the borough to be used for employment and the wider opportunities. Throughout the report, we explain how we would look to protect these spaces and ensure that this is used to solely grow our economy through employment space, and or if the land is reused, it meets the needs of the borough and the wider market. This consultation showcases how we will go further and address how we approach wider planning and the jobs associated with major developments. A fundamental necessity to ensuring Basildon is an attractive place to live, work and raise a family is for ensuring that skills and jobs are aligned. On page 116, we outline how we believe this starts with the planning process, and the plan sets out in detail how this administration will support much needed development in the borough, but ensures that development only receives approval if there is a meaningful plan for using local talent to fill the jobs. This means providing favourable consideration to proposals that will provide high-skilled jobs and as a result ensure higher paid work. By ensuring visibility of this at the planning stage, we can ensure that low-skilled residents are supported into training and work to provide a pipeline of talent for high-skilled jobs and ensure the benefits of these developments are shared evenly and felt right through the borough. In addition to these points, which broadly speak to my portfolio and the importance of the growth in the borough, the report also highlights how we think about the future of the environment, our impact through construction, the future use of the borough, the protection of our heritage and local communities, the health and well-being and the active lifestyles we lead across the area. It shows that in every area we deliver as a council, we have thought about the impacts this consultation seeks to bring together residents to support and help us recommend on a local plan that can deliver and brings together the visions of a bold and ambitious future for Basildon.
Thank you, Leader. And first of all, I'd like to join in Councillor Power in thanking Councillor Brown and our officers for all of their work to get us to this stage in quite significant, quite a short amount of time since we've taken administration. As a former chair of strategic planning infrastructure, I know how hard our officers work and have worked on the local plan, and want to thank them for all that they do. Tonight should be a night that we are looking forward. To be able to listen to our residents, we need to bring forward the Reg 18 consultation. We cannot seek to represent them unless we hear their views on any aspects of the plan that are coming forward. And to completely echo Councillor Power's comments, that the plan is about far more than just housing. It's about jobs, it's about infrastructure, it's about sport, it's about creating an active and healthy community for all of our residents to be able to thrive in. But the first step to be able to bring forward a plan that we can all be proud of is being able to listen to our residents in the first instance. Now, I hope I speak for everyone tonight when I say that Basildon is better off for having a local plan than not having a local plan. 2.5 years ago, I wasn't sitting in a seat too dissimilar from the Leader of the Opposition. In fact, I was the Leader of the Opposition. And coming forward before a full council meeting was a vote on the local plan. I had a decision to make that night. It wasn't a local plan that I put together. It wasn't a local plan that was a document I was particularly proud of. But we had a decision to make as an opposition about whether we supported it or whether we voted against it. To vote against it would have been to play politics, and it would have been to put our residents at complete disservice. The borough was far better off to be able to bring forward a local plan regardless of which political party brought it forward. And I hope all councillors speak with responsibility, and that responsibility is on us all to think about our language when we describe the Reg 18 consultation, so that we don't seek to speak for our residents without them speaking for themselves first of all. Like I say, the most important thing that we all have a responsibility to be able to do tonight is to listen to our residents, and without having this consultation, we are not able to do that. Particularly because if we don't have a local plan, what we see is speculative development that comes forward without the infrastructure that we need. In fact, 2 weeks after the local plan was pulled, we had a planning appeal for a large development take place that was put through on appeal that we didn't have any jurisdiction in making as an authority, with the sole reason for that being given because the borough withdrew its local plan only a matter of weeks beforehand. So the responsibility is on us all to support this consultation, to go forward with confidence, to listen to our residents, and make sure that we can bring forward a local plan that is something that they can be proud of and something that we can work towards, that goes beyond houses. It's about jobs, infrastructure, and far more. Thank you, Mr. Leader.
It is interesting, isn't it, what Councillor Ferguson was just saying in terms of the appeals that we've seen over the last couple of years, the development that has taken place the last few years since we made the decision as a council, not Labour councillors, but the then administration, to pull the local plan. Councillor Bagger earlier described this consultation, this plan, as a developer's charter. What has been an unsustainable developer's charter is not having a local plan. This draft this evening, this Reg 18, allows all residents, all businesses, all developers, all stakeholders to say what they want that future to look like. It isn't just about homes, it isn't just about jobs, it's about communities. And the idea that those communities will not flourish and grow is for the birds. We know that economically that Basildon is growing, and we want it to grow, we want it to flourish, we want it to thrive. In order to do that, we need homes for people to live in, we need employment land so that people can have jobs. And yes, as part of that, developers will pay contributions that will pay for roads, that will pay for schools, that will pay for hospitals, doctors, dentists, all the things that we want to build communities. The idea that we are going to build infrastructure first isn't going to happen. Infrastructure will occur at the point of need. And that's what this plan provides for. But furthermore, what we're asking tonight, as I keep on saying, is for all of us councillors, the best thing we can do is go to our residents, go to those groups which we meet with regularly, and encourage them to have their say. Tell us, as an administration, what is good, what is bad, how you feel about the sites that are coming forward. But to remember, we are trying to build communities that will include homes, that will include employment land, and will include the infrastructure that will support those communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown, and thank you to all the officers for your hard work on pulling this report together. Listening to...
Sorry, I just said my best officer.
Oh, right, yeah. Listening to Councillor Baggett, there is a pattern appearing in the opposition's argument. They messed up the bins, they blamed officers. They didn't pass a local plan, now they blame officers. Eventually, they are going to realise the reason that they are where they are is because they were utterly useless at delivering services when they were in administration. But we are 72 hours away from full council, where I'm sure we will rehearse all of these arguments again in greater detail, and everybody will have their say, and it will go on till 11:30 at night. So, we are going to move on. The recommendations for this report are on page 78. Can I have a show of hands to all those in favour? Thank you. That is unanimous. Thank you again to the officers and members of the public who have joined us this evening. Feel free to leave if you so wish. We are going back to what is agenda item 4, Cabinet Member Decision Record, which is on page 23-26 of the agenda. Are there any matters arising? No, very good. In which case we'll move to agenda item 5, which is an update, a verbal update from Cabinet members. Do any Cabinet members have a verbal update? Councillor McGarren?
It's backed by popular demand, the crunch. Yeah, and I'd like to thank Councillor Ferguson for his work on the area committees. Yeah, all of the area committees have approved the crunch, to finance the crunch on November the 23rd, which I think shows just how popular and well received it was. And I'm grateful to all the area committees, regardless of the political composition, for acknowledging how successful the crunch series over the summer was. And I look forward to the area committees, if they choose to, deciding to fund them on an occasional but regular basis in the future. The details on where the individual crunches are available on the council website. But just a reminder, it's November the 23rd, so I encourage our residents to make the most of the opportunity. Thank you.
Councillor Yacoub.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to update on a key project that we've been working on behind the scenes, which is called the Members Portal. This is a platform designed to truly transform casework for our councillors. Imagine an intelligent, all-in-one casework assistant that provides transparency, oversight, and ultimate convenience. At its core, the Members Portal will empower councillors to effortlessly track, manage, and follow up on casework, and councillors will be able to reopen closed cases, see who their casework is assigned to, and access comprehensive details. The portal's AI-powered features include an expansive knowledge base, a smart search capability, and an AI-driven chat assistant, which will streamline the search for relevant information, it will suggest solutions, and it will ensure that casework is correctly tagged and correctly assigned. The AI will also continuously learn and evolve from each interaction, so it will refine its support to be even more effective over time. Councillors will also be able to enjoy the freedom of being able to submit casework on the go and log in from any device that they want. We recently hosted a demo session for 5 councillors who volunteered to be our pilot members, and the feedback that we've had so far has been overwhelmingly positive. The excitement was palpable as they discovered all of the capabilities of the portal, and they appreciated the fact that they will have control and insight in their role as members when they do and submit casework. Here's a quick breakdown of the roadmap. This month, we will be implementing the feedback we received from our pilot members. We will incorporate this feedback. We will make sure that the customer services officers are also ready to go with training to adapt to this new approach. And then December, we will mark the release of a limited scope testing version for our pilot members to be able to use to do their casework. After this, we will receive further feedback, which will go, again, back into any of the changes that we need to make. And what we're looking at is, by March, we want to be able to fully deploy and launch this portal alongside all of the updates to our waste services, to our in-cab system, complete with ongoing support and dashboards for all members. I would like to thank Matt for all of his hard work to get us to this stage, and I'd also like to extend my thanks to all of the pilot members who volunteered, as their insight and their feedback will be crucial as we move forward.
Thank you, Councillor Yacoub. Councillor Baggott, do you wish to come in there at all? No? Okay, thank you. Councillor Ferguson, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to give a brief update on activities that have taken place within the community sport and culture portfolio over the last, or since we last met. On Friday, the 1st of November, I was delighted, along with Mr Taylor and Active Essex, to welcome the Minister for Sport to Basildon Sporting Village to see first-hand activities that had taken place with the local delivery pilot. We were able to take part in activities led by Sport for Confidence, and I'd like to thank all of the Sport for Confidence team, their participants and staff for putting on a brilliant show in front of the Minister. It was also great to be able to catch up with the Minister, talking about our activities that took place as part of the Summer of Sport campaign and what our future plans are to be able to drive sport within the borough. Last Wednesday evening, I was delighted to join the Chief Executive at the Basildon Sports Awards and be able to recognise a number of individuals, teams and clubs that have made huge contributions to sport in the borough over the last 12 months. I think I speak for everyone that was present when I say that it was an incredibly uplifting evening, and I look forward to going out and taking part in bowls per tank and joining some of the football activities over the coming weeks. And invitations are open to any councillors who wish to join me. I'd also like to just thank all members that have taken part in the area committee meetings over the last 2 weeks. We have completed the first cycle of area committees, and I'd like to thank Ms Bramley and her team for all of the operational support that they have provided the area committees over the last couple of weeks. I'd also like to thank the officer support, and particularly the community development officers who have gone above and beyond to provide support to all of the area committees for their work. And lastly, I'd like to thank all members that have been involved in the area committees. Like we said, when we first brought forward the area committee proposal, it gives all members a real stake in decision making that takes place in all wards across this borough. Whether you're in administration or opposition, you're able to make decisions with budgets attached to them and be accountable to your residents that put you there in the first place. And I think it has made a great difference in being able to make us more accountable and more in touch with the views that residents have been put forward across the borough. And I look forward to seeing the work of the area committees develop over the coming year. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Any other cabinet members wishing to report? No? Thank you. With that, we now go on to item agenda 7, and that will be Councillor McGowan, the waste consultation and future service delivery options. Thank you, Councillor McGowan.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brown. First of all, it would be remiss of me not to mention the success of the consultation that made this report possible. The downside of that success is getting almost 8,000 responses creates quite a lot of work. So I'd like to thank James Hendry and his team for the enormous amount of work they put in a very short space of time to come up with what is a very good report. We said from the outset we'd fix the bins, and this is a major step towards delivering on that, and we will deliver on that. We're also, you'll be pleased to know, or most of you will be pleased to know, getting rid of the hugely unpopular and not fit for purpose sacks. Thank you. Our aspiration, I'll be honest, is to move to a system where wheelie bins are used for recycling. But this will take time and money that at this exact moment we haven't got. There's reasons for that I don't need to go into at this point, but I will if necessary. So the short-term solution will be to move to single-use bags. There's an item later on the agenda about procurement, so I won't go into any more detail on that at the moment. Unlike the previous administration, we've listened to the residents. They put out a consultation and ignored the findings of what residents actually said and introduced a system that they wanted to introduce that didn't work. And we're paying the price of that now, and have been ever since. We've listened to the residents. 73.2% of those who took part in the consultation strongly agreed or agreed with going back to weekly black collections. In terms of sacks, only 14% supported keeping the sacks. 59% were against keeping them. 82.7% had issues with rain getting into sacks. We all know all about that because we've all had residents approach us and tell us about it, and we've experienced it ourselves personally. 80.9% said they had issues with them blowing away in the wind. The waste system that the previous administration introduced was rubbish. The residents have told us that. We are now starting to act on that, and we are proceeding as quickly as it is possible to do so. I'll leave it at that for the moment, but I may have more to say later.
Thanks, Councillor McGowan. Councillor Baggott, would you like to comment on this at all? No?
Nothing to say.
Nothing to say. Well, with that, I will come to our Cabinet members. Councillor Smith, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Can I ask a question through you as Chair to Councillor McGowan? Can we have a sample done once the bags are empty, you know, like a surgical swab type thing, and see how many pathogens and other disgusting forms of life? Because when these recycling bags were originally imposed on residents, one of my constituents was about to take a course of chemotherapy, and thank God he's still here and got through it. And he showed the 2 bags to his oncologist because he was worried. He's been through it before and they was unused, and his oncologist took one look, and I said this here at a previous cabinet meeting: do not use them. Your immune system's shot when you take the chemotherapy. Don't use those disgusting recycling bags. And we have never as a council done a full health impact assessment. And I think it's fair, after a year's use, getting a medical swab and going round those rotten recycling pathogen bags, send it off to a lab for future reference. Even though it's of no direct benefit because we're going to do the right thing, it's important because there's many other councils, like our neighbours in Brentford, that use them rotten bags, so their residents can see, because it looks like no local authority has ever done a health impact assessment. And I think it's worth doing those tests. I've spoken to a few residents this weekend about these blue and white bags, and they're delighted. I had one nice lady cuddle me. She was from Ireland, and she went, "Oh, brilliant, Kerry, you've done all that." I went, No. It was Councillor McGowan. We work in partnership on this. And she went, "Oh, he's a good man." I said, "Well, his family comes from near where my family comes from." "Ah, that's why," she says. But when you look at it, only 5% strongly support and 9% support those minging recycling bags. I think Kamala Harris got more votes in Trump country than that. I think they should have put that on the ballot paper. And probably those recycling bags would have definitely have not even come third. They'd have been up behind RFK where he was on the ballot. They are so disgusting, so rotten, so filthy. And if you look round the Langdon Hills estate, because these bags are not sealed on a windy day, and I'm not having to go to the dusties, they're under an incredible amount of pressure to get the refuse collected. And there's bits of rubbish on the ground, and the wind blows it underneath the bushes. And when these bags were first launched, I was with Councillor Green, we was dropping off our Christmas newsletter round Great Berry. It was just turned dark, and there was guys still out opposite the Tesco's in Great Berry picking up the recycling. Thank the Lord, no one got hurt that winter collecting our refuse. But with these disposable sacks, they're not only hygienic, they're disabled friendly, they're just great, because you can just have 2 bins in your kitchen or wherever you do it in your house. You sift and sort your recycling. When they're full, you just tie the bag up, you put it outside. That's nice and clean. That keeps the public safe. That's a great thing. No rubbish spilling down the road. And the best thing as well on top of that is that when the dustmen come round, they'll always get the younger guy running round, grabbing all the bags, put them on the green. Then the dust cart turns up, the driver's in the cab, keeping an eye on everyone, making sure they're safe, and the other guy gets out and the pair of them throw the bags in. It's nice and quick, it's nice and clean, and it's far more safer, and more importantly, it's keeping people with compromised immune systems safe. But I strongly request we do that random sample test of those recycling bags, publish a report. Even though we're abolishing them, it's warning for other councils, because those bags, you just cannot clean them. They are rank and they are disgusting. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Councillor McGowan, you want to come back in? Thank you.
Yeah, I'll be relatively brief. As always, Councillor Smith makes some interesting points in an interesting way. Thank you for that. In terms of health impact assessment, it's an interesting suggestion. Obviously, you'll appreciate I'll have to talk to Mr Hendry to see how practical and how expensive that is, but it's an interesting suggestion which is worth consideration. I kept it relatively brief earlier because we've got quite a busy agenda tonight and I don't want us to be here longer than is absolutely necessary. But I think there's a couple of other points I should make very, very quickly. 70% of residents said they'd experienced fly tipping in the last 12 months. 27.7% said that was frequently, more than 6 times in the last 12 months. None of this comes as a surprise to us councillors here because our residents have been telling us repeatedly what's going on. The previous administration was in denial. We are not. We are dealing with it. We said we would fix the bins and the shameful mess that the previous administration created on our estates. What we didn't know at that time when we made that initial promise was the shocking waste collection system that was introduced by the Conservatives didn't just make a mess of our estates, they made a mess of our finances as well. But you know what? It's okay, because as well as fixing the bins, we're now going to fix the finances as well.
Do I have any Cabinet members wishing to come in? Councillor McGeorge.
Thank you, Chair. This is, I believe, our first major consultation since we've been in administration, and I think this is proving that we are here to listen to our residents and we are going to do what our residents would like us to do. The bins were a disaster from the beginning. As Councillor Smith was saying, on the estates there is fly tipping everywhere. They blow away in the wind, they blow into the road. The disposable sacks is just a much cleaner option for our residents. We're still recycling, we are still having the separate recycling bags. The recycling figures are not going to go down. But we're making sure that our residents have an easier way to recycle, a cleaner way to recycle, while still doing what we need to do. But the one thing I would like to add is my foxes are going to be very disappointed in the garden. They won't be able to eat the handles on the sacks anymore.
Thank you, Councillor McGeorge. Any other councillor? Yes, Councillor Yacoub.
I think what is really striking is that we've had one of the largest consultation responses this council has ever had. It is much larger than the consultation that took place under the Conservatives, which we've already discussed. They decided not to listen to. And then we have the people who were responsible for an extremely failed policy when it came to waste, to the point where people that we were talking to were crying because they felt so ashamed of the place that they lived in. And now we've had this consultation, we've started this process to really kind of, as a council, in a way redeem ourselves and say, we're going to get this right, we're going to fix this, and we're going to make sure that, we have a waste system that works. It's one of the most basic functions a council can carry out, and you failed to do it. And now we have this response, and we have recommendations that make sense, that address all of the concerns that residents had. I think residents are going to be really, really happy with the recycling option, especially because when you look at the sacks that were there, everyone was like, who thought of this? Like, anyone could have thought of a better solution than this, and you have the opposition leader sitting there, and when asked to comment, says he's got nothing to say. So not only did you fail, but now when we're trying to get things right, you've got nothing to say. And what you're really saying is, I hear that you voted us out of administration because of this failure, but I'm still unwilling to engage. I'm still unwilling to take responsibility. I think it's really shameful.
Thank you, Councillor Yacoub. Councillor Ferguson, you were indicating to come in?
Thank you, Chair. I said on the earlier item tonight that tonight is a night about looking forward, and I think this proposal that we're bringing forward and the response to the waste consultation is absolutely an opportunity for us to be able to look forward. We've seen the disaster that we've inherited, and we've been able to demonstrate tonight that when it comes to actually listening to residents and being able to put their views front and centre of what the administration is doing, we're acting on it. And I want to thank Councillor McGarr and Mr Hendry and all of the team for all of their work over the last 6 months in being able to roll out this consultation as quickly as they possibly could and be able to collate and produce this report for us as well. But I think the biggest thank you tonight goes to our residents that have had to put up with this service for far too long, that they didn't want the changes that were previously being introduced, and have given us their trust and confidence to be able to put it right. And what we've been able to do tonight is be able to demonstrate to those residents that we're listening to them and being able to put in place a plan that will actually deliver for them and give them the service that they need, want and deserve. So going forward, I think this is an exciting proposal being brought forward, and fully support it.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. I would like to give Councillor Baggott one last opportunity. Councillor Baggott, would you like to apologise to our residents or say anything at this time?
Thank you for the opportunity. No, I'm not going to apologise to residents. What I am going to say, as we have consistently said, is that we acted in good faith to actually ensure that we drove recycling up. We have never, ever shied away from the fact that the blue and white sacks were not fit for purpose. And having recognised that, we initiated with officers the procurement process, or we started and asked for the procurement process to begin to find an alternative to blue and white sacks, because you couldn't walk around the borough and see them flying everywhere and not accept that there was a design problem with blue and white sacks. So we've never ever hidden from that. But we're not going to apologise for the fact that we drove up recycling, and in fact we were, if I remember rightly, in at the 38% of recycling when we began the whole process of the change to waste, and by the end of it we were nigh on 59%, which is a massive increase and success, when in fact we were spending a fortune on landfill as opposed to getting a credit by actually increasing our recycling. So the intent and the way we went about it was with the right intentions, which I'm not going to apologise for. What I will apologise for is the fact that residents have had to put up with the blue and white sacks. But we've always said that they weren't fit for purpose, and that remains the same today.
Thank you, Councillor Baggott. Councillor McGowan, you wish to come back? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Interesting, Councillor Baggott. We had to wait for that response, but it was worth waiting for, wasn't it? So you said you operated in good faith. I've no idea whether you did or you didn't, but I'm prepared to accept that you did. But you still messed it up monumentally, whether it was in good faith or not. You said that no one denied the blue and white sacks were a failure. Yes, they did. Councillor Blake, my predecessor, for months and months and months, denied that, said the system that was in place was a success, was working, and there was no issues with it. So that is actually, doesn't resonate with me, what you just said there, and I don't think it resonates with anyone else in this chamber. But anyway, it is what it is. We're sorting it out. You talk about recycling rates going up. They have gone up. I'll admit that, and that's a good thing. But we are confident we can keep them up. Going back, the report says it, so I'm not going to hide from it. The report says that going to black weeklies may have some impact on recycling rates, and we accept that. We will have a policy of education and encouragement to make sure that recycling doesn't drop. But it's not the case that the recycling's gone up in a curve just like that. There's been peaks and troughs, and there's all sorts of reasons for that. And, we will learn from those experiences. But even if the recycling rates in the short term drop a little bit, you know what? I'm not too worried about that, because in the long term, we will get them back up. And you know what? Residents are really not clamouring to be on top of the recycling rate list. They're not coming up to me going, Aidan, you know what? Looks like we're going to be in the top 30 of the recycling rate, and we can't drop out of that. That'd be a tragedy. What they're saying to me is, our estates look like a third world, something you'd expect in a third world country. I nearly said something else, I won't say that. Yeah, in a third world country, and we're ashamed. That's what they're saying. So if there's a small temporary drop in recycling levels, but we seek to minimise that with education and good communications and also goodwill, because I think people would be so relieved not to have the fortnightly black collections and the sacks that don't work. I think they'll work better with us and will improve it. So, again, you still can't face the fact that just because you had an improvement in recycling, this was a success. No, it wasn't. It was an absolute abject failure, and we're sorting it out.
Thank you, Councillor McGowan. I believe Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I won't keep too long. I want to add to the points that Councillor McGowan has made, and picking up on the concerns raised by Councillor Bagger. The County Council has signed a contract for an incinerator in the borough of District of Braintree, and from reading research on incinerators whilst campaigning against their plans to impose one in Pitsea, which thankfully fell flat on its face, so I'd like to put a big thanks to Rishi Sunak, because that meeting clashed with the general election, they bottled it, so thank you, Rishi. I like to be fair. But wherever you have incinerators, the recycling becomes fuel. So if people decide not to recycle as much, that waste next year won't be going into landfill, it won't be subject to landfill taxes, it'll be going to the Braintree incinerator to be burnt. So I would say that as relief. I mean, the landfill tax should have been abolished. It used to be called the EU landfill tax, but some party promised Brexit was done and they just deleted letters rather than change the legislation. So I'll leave it there, Madam Chairman, and thanks Councillor McGowan for his excellent work.
Thank you. I think what is clear from this report, and this report is all about the consultation that we have had, is that the previous consultation that took place before the Conservative administration introduced the new that we're putting up with now, waste collection, that they did not listen. Residents never said they wanted their black waste to be collected every 2 weeks. They never said that they wanted the kind of bags that they provided. What we have done this time, through this consultation, we have done everything we can to engage and to make sure that this consultation has been accessible to residents, and those numbers show that it has. Those numbers show that our residents are not in any way happy with what they have today. And moving forward, our officers are going to work with our cabinet member to ensure that we deliver the service that our residents expect, because we are an administration that listens, that respects our residents, and that acts, and that enables us to make sure that our priorities are their priorities, and that when we go through the budgeting process, that we ensure that where we allocate funds reflects those priorities. So I'd just like to thank Councillor McGowan, Mr Hendry, and obviously for Owen finding us the money, and everyone who's working really hard to ensure that when this comes back in December, that we will have a robust programme that will reflect the needs of our residents and also have a budgetary position that where we can sustain this. So thank you. With that, I'd like to take us to the recommendations, which can be found on page 31 and 32. All those in favour? Thank you, that is unanimous. With that, I will be moving on to item agenda 8, which is our urban greening. Unfortunately, Councillor Callaghan has had to leave us, and therefore you have me and officers in order to present this. So, for our urban greening, which can be found on page 73, this report seeks the approval to modify the existing contracts with H&B Groundswork Contractors Limited and to support the urban greening project within the borough. This was originally awarded in 2016 and then extended to 2023. This contract is for minor engineering works. The purpose and the proposal before us tonight will add a £35,000 project to install planters and groundworks with funds from the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. The aim is to improve our public spaces across the town centres, which will include Basildon, Pitsea, etc., with low maintenance planting that enhances the urban environment and community appeal. The options that we have to consider tonight include approving the contract extension, a new contract, or taking no action. Obviously, taking no action is not an option tonight, and therefore we are asked to look at these recommendations. The legal and financial considerations align with the public sector regulations, and the work addresses community inclusion and cohesion as in line with our Equalities Act. I would ask at this time for our officers if they have any comments on this project.
Nothing further to say.
Thank you. Therefore, Cabinet members? Yep, Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I appreciate none of these are directly within my area committee. And when you see some of these planters, they do put plants in, but they're not the prettiest of ones because they're trying to go for Mediterranean plants, which will take the abuse of summer and not need a lot of watering to save money. Good in theory, the area committees top them up so that nice stuff can be put in. You go around Chelmsford, they put ivy leaf geraniums in the summer. It looks pretty, it's nice. Just to make that bit of effort. When you put these dried lavender plants in and people go, Sandy, something to dot my cigarette out in. You know, we want something nice to make the town centre better, and I'd appreciate if the area committees can top them up to put nicer plants in that look better. I think we could make our town centres as good as Chelmsford for the horticultural side, but these Mediterranean plants, it's all right if you like them, but they don't look all that because they're bred to live in tough climates.
I am sure, Councillor Smith, as the chair of your area committee, you can put forward proposals which can be discussed at your area committee. Thank you. Any other councillors? No? Councillor Baggett, do you wish to comment on that? Okay, I will then therefore take us to the proposals, which can be found on page 73 to page 74. All those in favour? Thank you. Yeah. We're now moving on to item agenda 10, which can be found on page 1179, thanks to the local plan. What makes people laugh? We like detail in planning. Okay. So, comms review. Excuse me. So, as many of you may be aware, that a comms review has taken place this summer with our LGA colleagues. It was a peer review. It came in to look at where we were in terms of best practice and how we could move forwards. And to ensure that the focus of what we were hoping to achieve with comms was in line with what the administration hoped to achieve politically, and therefore we needed comms strategies that supported that. There were some key findings which are outlined within the report. Just give me a second. In terms of leadership and structure, it was clear that some of our teams lacked strategic direction following the restructuring, and also that they needed some more professional leadership within that was missing after the restructuring had taken place. That we had some gaps in terms of skills, and therefore some of our comms team were in need of training and skills, as you would expect within any group within our offices. That we had some operational challenges in terms of out-of-hours support, and that often workflow was disjointed. The report gave us several recommendations. The first one was to improve engagement and planning. The recommendation was that there should be more regular meetings with council leaders to improve the planning tools and to enable the comms team to be more proactive. Leadership enhancement, engaging interim leadership was crucial, whilst we sought to recruit a permanent assistant director. Developing comms strategy, which tied in with the council priorities, such as campaign planning, public affairs strategy, and improving engagement on all issues, including the town centre regeneration. The recommendation also required that we looked at how we can build skills within the group and how evaluation can be put in place to ensure that campaigns had more effective outcomes. And finally, that there would be some operational adjustments. This would include outsourcing some work, enhancing internal communications, and improving collaboration across the whole organisation so that each department could contribute to their project workflows. I apologise for the very brief introduction, but I wasn't expecting to introduce this tonight. Hopefully Cabinet members have had the opportunity to read this paper. I'd like to thank the LGA for the peer review. It is really crucial that we work to best practice. I thank our officers for being open to that process, and for the engagement that's taken place subsequently with those LGA colleagues and the way in which our officers have taken on board the things that need to change there and their commitment to doing that. I would now like to hand over to Councillor Baggott and ask if he has any questions at this time.
Thank you, Chairman. No questions as such. I think that any peer group review should be valued. We had a couple while we were in administration and we always took them on the chin and said we would follow through on them. And I think that it's good that we are engaging still with the LGA in order to get these, because all councils are about learning, and anything that we can actually learn from our peers elsewhere has to be commended.
Thank you, Councillor Baggott. Councillor Smith, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, after reading that report, it's quite interesting. I think two things we can pick up on locally to add to this report is not everyone is on Facebook, thankfully, and we do need the council magazine back. I appreciate finances were difficult last year, but not everyone's on the internet, and social media, there's so much junk on there, the important stuff doesn't cut through. But when we started the housing repair surgeries, they've been putting adverts on Facebook, and that's been quite successful. In last Thursday's one, we had 28 residents return. And I'd asked Jude, who's sitting behind us, on Tuesday, I said, could you just put a little nudge out to people? And that helped to generate 28 people. And that in turn helps save the council money. I mean, if one of those was a case that slipped through the net with getting Morgan Sindall back to where it should be with the repair contract, from nearly 5,000 outstanding repair jobs to 2,500, which is the monthly target of new cases being generated. And if there's a case that slips through the net, it's important that residents can come to that. So that's good we've got that. But I think as well, from when Aidan, Councillor McGowan, thankfully launched those wonderful, was it 6 weeks of crunches in the summer? Yeah. And whenever there was a crunch in my area, sorry, Councillor McGowan's corrected me, 5 weeks of crunch. And whenever we had a crunch, I'd fire up my risograph printer really, really fast. The council should get some, but I don't understand why they don't. Fire up the folding machine, put them through the doors, and that last one in Langdon Hills, oh, it was crazy. And there was residents turning up going like, where's dust cut? Oh, he's just slightly behind, but he's here. And it was just vehicle after vehicle because I put something through the doors. So we need to think of that. I appreciate there's finances, but we do need physical measures. And when we do good things like the crunchies, it's important we notify as many people as possible because it avoids fly tipping. As we said after Councillor McGowan's sterling work with them 5 weeks of crunchies, the levels of fly tripping for a significant number of weeks afterwards nosedived, which saved the taxpayer money. So I think offline, when we're speaking informally, we need to think of ways of getting the word out other than Facebook and social media so that residents know we have these services and we can help them. And more importantly, the winter home help. We need to think of more ways of getting that throughout, and we look at this LGA peer review and see what we can learn and take away. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. I think it's important that we recognise some of those findings and that we recognise that at present we are not functioning, or we weren't functioning in a way that we would want. I think we look at some of the data that's found in there that shows that 48% of our residents felt that they were not well informed about what's happening in the council. We have a really low engagement rate in our social media. I know lots of you love your social media. I'm not a huge fan, but I understand the place for it. But when we've only got a rate of 1.2% per post across all platforms, that is really worrying, that we're lack of engagement. Likewise, 58% of our employees felt they were not kept well informed about the decisions of the council or what was happening in the council. Every day in this building, there are numerous officers working really hard to do some really great stuff, and people do not know about that. It is important, not just for the morale of those people that work within the council, but for our residents, that they understand the things that we are doing well, and at the moment, they don't. And it's really important that we change the way in which we speak to our residents, that they hear us, and that they have ways to access the messages we want to give them. And that's not just about the political messages we want to give them. That is everything from how to collect their waste to how to contact a certain department to how to We've tried to engage more with the complaints with Morgan Sindall, having them in the building. But residents wouldn't know that was happening if our comms isn't effective. It's really important, whether we're looking at a consultation period or the way in which our residents can engage with this council on a daily basis, that they are communicated with, and that we also have a way to hear what they want to say back. And it's quite clear from this report that that wasn't happening, and that we need to increase that, that we are far behind what would be good practice. But what is really important, that what's come out of this, is that there is a plan to move us forward. And that is far more important than if we just, as you said, Councillor Baggott, received it, listened to it, went, oh yeah, okay then. We haven't said, okay then. We have sat with our officers and with the LGA and said, what needs to change? What is the pathway so that our employees do feel that they know what's going on in this building and do feel heard? What is the pathway to ensuring that our residents are communicated with in an effective manner? Whether that's through our website, our social media platforms, in our local press. And we are making the changes needed to ensure that that happens, in terms of strengthening our communications team, in terms of the strategy that they're given, in terms of leadership within that organisation, that will ensure that we no longer have the problems that are highlighted in this report. And I think that that's what's really important, that these strategic recommendations enable us to move forward, that the recommendation for Cabinet to adopt tonight is an action plan. It's not just, okay, that's a problem, great. It's how we're going to resolve it, and working with our officers to ensure that the residents' satisfaction in the way that this council speaks to them, that our employees within this building and the way in which this council speaks to them can change and can improve. Councillor McGarren.
Thanks very much. You probably no one would be too shocked to hear that I think communications are quite important. Yeah, major shock over there. In terms of Councillor Smith's comments about a magazine, I think, listen, my entire background is print media. I love the old-fashioned print media, but we've got to be realistic about that. And much as I would like to see a magazine produced, we've got to find ways of financing it that work. And if we can't, then the likelihood is that won't return. But I would like nothing better, Councillor Smith, than to see a magazine, a print product back in place. I can assure you that. I think a few people have mentioned, Councillor Smith, Councillor Brown mentioned the crunch. I think that was an interesting example of our comms beginning to step up a gear and beginning to work, because once people realised what was going on with the crunch, it was an incredible success. I think what it also did as well, and again Councillor Brown's comments about people not knowing the hard work that goes on from council staff, is the waste crews had a tough time. They'd had a really tough time, not of their making. And what the crunch did was, you know, we saw people respond, residents respond to the waste crews in a really, really positive way, which was, you know, completely correct, and you know, it was a pleasure to see. So again, thank you, Councillor Baggott. I welcome your constructive comments on the LGA review. It was a good review. Many of us participated, were questioned, and I thought the way they went about it, the outcomes of it, were all incredibly welcome. And I'd just like to make one final point that I was remiss of me earlier, didn't make, that I don't know where Councillor Smith keeps finding these people that are familiar with my family, or at least the village that my family are from, but it is quite extraordinary, and I thank him very much.
Enough of our cultural heritage and why we ended up here. What I would also just like to point out to Cabinet members is this is not something that is stagnant. This is something that is going to be continued to be reviewed, and that in Q2 of 2025 this will be reviewed again to see whether or not we have made those changes that we needed in terms of our digital presence, in terms of our key messaging, and in terms of satisfaction amongst our employees and our residents. I think it's really important to know that we are also an administration who is willing to be accountable and continues to listen. With that, I would like to take us to the recommendations. which can be found on 1179. All those in... Oh, sorry. Sorry, Councillor Cube, did you need to come in? Oh, yeah, go on then.
Thank you. Just really quickly, I wanted to kind of go over the whole process that we had with the comms review and the action plan that's come out of it. And I just want to echo some of the points made. I think one of the things that we've all identified is that as a council, we are doing some really amazing things. But most of the time, we're really, really bad at celebrating the wins. And I think one of the most important things that needs to come at the back of this is being able to celebrate those wins and make sure our residents know what we're up to. And then, of course, the other aspect of it is to make sure that residents know what's going on, because we always hear residents say, oh, I didn't know about this, or oh, nobody told me. So whether it's the Morgan Sindel drop-ins, or, you know, if it's the warm homes guarantee, or the crunch, or the various consultations we're running, it's so important that they're accessible. And as a council, we have that duty to make sure that our comms is effective, because, you know, the extension of that is we are effective in making sure that everything is accessible to everyone. And the previous administration really failed when it came to the comms, and a lot of the times they demonstrated that they were completely out of touch. They were not responsive to residents when they shared their dissatisfaction, and it really impacted the perception of the council. And I think this action plan will go a long way to make sure that we start altering the perception of our council, and to position ourselves as a council that does want to engage with residents. And I think the key aspect of this action plan that I want to pick up is the one around the skills audit. And I think it's really important that part of this skills audit, it's no surprise, I really like social media, I really care about social media, and I think that there's a huge issue around understanding social media that we don't have at the moment. And when it comes to posting across various platforms, there's almost this kind of ability to not understand that platforms have different languages, and you need to speak in the language of said platform in order to be able to engage with residents. You can't just like post the same thing across platforms. It doesn't work like that. And what I would like to see is our comms team have that ability, and moving forward to even, you know, use stuff like AI in comms. You know, AI makes comms really, really easy and really, really effective. And, you know, I would like to see that to be a part of this. But yeah, I'm really happy with the action plan in front of us and really happy to support this.
Thank you, Councillor Cube. I'll just double check nobody else wants to come in before we go to the vote. Okay, with that, we will go to the vote then. Thank you, Cabinet members. Thank you. We are now moving to item agenda. Yes, Councillor Smith, we're going to try and keep your happiness under wraps. Item agenda 11, which is a devolution update. Again, you're going to have my version of this, so hopefully we get everything in place here. So we all know there are various parts of the country that have undergone devolution, that by doing so, they've not only been able to capture more resources from central government, but they have also been able to take those decision-making powers closer to home, and that local residents have a greater voice when it comes to those strategic infrastructure projects and what that can look like. We also know it is no secret that in this part of Essex, we have not been, we feel we've been unfairly treated, and we have not been totally happy with the situation we have endured with Essex County Council. I think it always surprises our residents just how little of their council money stays within this borough, and how much control over that Essex colleagues have. So with devolution comes a great opportunity, not only to bring forward the idea that we'll be able to have greater resources over those large infrastructure projects, but also the opportunity for local government reform. We all know that two-tier government doesn't work. It has shown itself across the country not to work. And across our nation, those counties have made the decision to make a change. Whether that's Cumbria, Lancashire, etc., Yorkshire, have looked at how can we restructure local government so it works better for people, that it's more efficient, that it uses taxpayers' monies far more efficiently, and therefore we have more money to spend on the services that our local residents require. So as part of this proposal, we are looking at introducing an Essex Combined Authority Board that would have 5 unitary councils. At the moment, we have 15 districts. It does not work. We have 2 unitaries. and then Essex County Council above. There is a lot of waste there. There is a lot of lack of joined up thinking, and that we passionately feel that by splitting the county up into those 5 strong unitary bodies, that each of those areas would have its voice. It makes sense geographically, it makes sense in terms of demographics, it makes sense in terms of vision and social value in order to do this. So what we are looking at tonight is a proposal that, yes, has a political strategy to it, but ultimately is about ensuring that Essex works more effectively for the residents that live here, that we can deliver local government in a way that is more proactive, that is more efficient, and that is more engaging with those residents, because the decision making will be closer to them, they will have a larger say, and we know that that's going to be more effective and more impactful. We have gone through several discussions with central government. It is clear from Rachel Reeve's last speech that they are determined that devolution will take place across the nation for those places that have not yet undergone that. And this is our chance to have a voice in what we want that to look like, what we want that local government reform to look like. We are not happy with the status quo. It does not work. That is recognised across Essex by the district councils, by our MPs, by Essex County councillors, that this present state does not work. And therefore, what we are looking to do at the moment is to move towards devolution and move towards local government reform that will give us a far stronger economy, a far stronger voice, and a better way of doing government. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I couldn't agree with you any more, and I speak as a county councillor of 12 years next May, and hopefully a few more years after that. To me, I feel like a Euro MP elected on a mandate for Brexit. I want this to happen so we can do every single county councillor, including myself, out of a job. And just for the record, I get the basic allowance at county of 13,700. So most politicians be like, no, don't do this, I need the money. I'm saying, do this. Oh, I'll find something else to do with my time. Never know, a winning lottery ticket might come in. If they shake the machine, I might get Trump's lawyer to say the tickets I bought last week when were fixed, it was rigged, and get the money that way. But I won't count too many hopes on that. And when you look at the natural evolution of this county, I am no fan of Ted Heath. But when he took away those Essex districts in the 60s and put them into Greater London, I don't propose that for Basildon, but they were very silly little sized councils, and merged them into more sensible authorities. Our most closest one is Havering. There was 2 councils there, Hornchurch and Romford, and by amalgamating them together, those taxpayers there weren't paying for 2 chief executives, 2 batches of councillors, 2 different refuse crews, 2 crews to fix this, 2 crews to fix that, 2 crews to take care of this, that and the other, where now they've only got one of everything, and it saved the taxpayer money. I have my concerns about Thurrock's finances, and the government will have to step in and take care, but we must break away from Essex County Council. They are no friend of Basildon. Just look at our roads. They have switched off our street lights. When they say park night lighting cuts crime, partially they're right, because no self-respecting criminal is going to go around the villages of Essex when the lights are all switched off, because they stick out in the middle of the night like a sore thumb. And any village plod on his push bike going through at that hour go, oh, chance for promotion, I've caught myself a burglar. Where in Basildon, it's pitch black except for 7 estates. And for the criminals, it's lovely. They can go around now, have these gadgets, and it's pushed up everyone's car insurance. Go on an estate where there's no lights, and they tend to have the nicer cars because they're the estates that are being kept dark at night. With that gadget, oh look, hack into that car's computer, start it up, drive it off. And we can end that policy. We can get our roads fixed. But what I keep saying to residents on the door, you've got to think of Basildon when this happens. It's like a state in East Germany after reunification. It's going to take years to fix our infrastructure. It's going to take some time to get our roads and pavements up to the standard they should be. But the minute we stop paying county all money, we cast that leech from our body. They can't suck us for any more blood to spend on North Essex. And to conclude, when you think of how they blow money, 5 million on silly Facebook ads. I understand it's a little bit more, but I won't preach something part two-ish up there. There's talk of their precious hamburger roundabout in Chelmsford's going to go down the pan after committing £5 million to it. And one of the most important roads in this borough, the Nevermain in my ward, the highway surface is terrible. And if an ambulance comes along, it's a pothole. The ambulance is going to be off the road trying to get a guy to put a new tyre on. But you go around Chelmsford, you go, oh, where's the potholes? No potholes in Chelmsford. And that's Basildon's money fixing Chelmsford roads, and that should stop. So this devolution needs to pass. And to conclude, I sincerely pass on my thanks through you, Madam Chairman, to our Member of Parliament for Rayleigh and Wickford, for when the Conservatives were in power, he went out of his way to sabotage county's plans for only 2 councils in Essex. We owe Mark Francois a debt of gratitude. Who would want Basildon attached with Brentwood, Thurrock, Castle Point, Rochford and Southend when we couldn't be just Basildon and Thurrock? I thank Mr Francois. He's done a great job as the Member of Parliament for Rayleigh and Wickford.
With that interesting comment, I'll ask Councillor Baggott. Councillor Baggott, do you have anything you want to come in on this issue? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As this is Cabinet and it's coming to Council on Thursday, I shall wait until Thursday. Thank you.
Interesting that you don't have any scrutiny to take place at the moment, Councillor Baggott. I'll therefore turn back to any of the Cabinet members at this time. Councillor Power, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. As explained, the ability to make more meaningful decisions in a second-tier authority is limited. It holds us back and it means our residents don't get to feel the full impact of the council tax they see leaving their bank account. Basildon receives the smallest percentage from our residents' council tax bills, yet we deliver the most services that they interact with and they see across the borough, so this can no longer be right. As stated in the report, Basildon and South Essex has a great potential for growth, and by tailoring our efforts in a more regional basis, we stand a chance of greater success. As of last week, Basildon now has an award-winning economic development team, one of the best in the country. And this is proof that we know what our businesses need to grow and the talent we need to attract. As well as this, our local councillors are far better placed to highlight areas of local need, whether it's funding, support for identified crime hotspots, exactly where we need to enable better provision and mobility for people to access education and higher skills training, and of course, where our roads need attention and all of our potholes need to be filled. The list is truly endless, but for each example, the answer is the same. Local councillors and borough council are far better placed to make the decisions that will address the needs of the residents and the businesses to truly help improve people's lives. Tonight, we've heard reports on the results of our waste consultation, and the impact of delays of communication with Essex County Council means we were held back on delivering our promises to our residents of Basildon as quickly as we would like. We know only too well from delays in projects such as the Langdon regeneration that restrictions an upper tier can have to plans coming to fruition. We would have greater autonomy on decisions around infrastructure and how we're able to work with developers to ensure this is delivered in a timely manner and at the point of need. And only today I've been discussing with my team the benefits of being able to allocate funding and disseminate this locally to numerous projects across the borough and the direct impact applying a local lens of these funds has. Being able to imagine the potential of a unitary environment we could create means we can really focus on what is needed on a more granular level, and I'm excited to hear the ongoing discussions around a local government reform for Basildon.
Thank you, Councillor Powell. Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I first of all congratulate Councillor Power and the Economic Development team on their award-winning evening last week, and know firsthand the work that Councillor Power has done with the officers to drive the Economic Development team across the authority. We've all been elected here to be able to serve our residents, and to be able to serve our residents, we need to be able to operate in the most effective decision-making system possible. And quite clearly, the current two-tier authority does not work. In fact, I remember last time I was here as a member, we commissioned external evaluations into the system of governance that we had, and one of the quotes that really stood out to me was how Basildon was being prevented from harnessing its potential because of the current two-tier system that leads to lots of chaos, lots of confusion, lots of delay in decision-making ability between different authorities. You don't have, we spoke on the previous item around around communications. You don't have to look too far on social media to see too many posts from residents on Facebook groups being able to comment saying there's an issue with this particular road, who's the person that's actually responsible for being able to carry out this service. And then local councillors quite rightly being tagged in because we are at the front line, we've been elected into a position, so it's quite right that we're tagged in to be able to resolve those issues. We just don't have the power to be able to fix them in the first place. So what this is about giving us the opportunity to be able to give those residents a simple, clear and effective form of governance that really responds to their needs, that allows businesses to be able to engage with the council with one voice and know the decisions that we're able to carry out with, and then being able to carry out our ambitions in a much more simpler way that can really empower local councils to make local decisions, and as we've shown time and time again, that we are far more effective at being able to do. What I think is really important is that while there's been a number of devolution deals across the country, it is really important that devolution goes hand in hand with local government reform. Rather than just being able to devolve power, what we need to look at is how we really structure and shape that power to make sure that the devolution is being reached to the right areas. Ultimately, what our residents want to see is their problems being fixed and their town and areas that they live in prospering. What we don't want is another level of local government bureaucracy that adds into new tiers, more chaos, more confusion. So if we can have devolution, local government reform working at the same time, being able to give a voice to our residents, then we're more likely to give them the form of governance that they require that can then really allow us to respond to the challenges that our residents are facing. Thank you, Madam Deputy Chair.
Thank you, councillors. I think it's really important that our residents who are maybe watching this and to highlight for those other councillors that are here with us tonight, that as a district council at present, we do not actually get a full voice at the table when this comes through. That the voices at the table are Essex County Council and the two unitaries that are within our county. But I think what is crucial is that MHCLG, yeah, got that right, know what we as a district council here feel about this. We no longer can continue to have 15 councils. We no longer can continue to be at the mercy of Essex County Council. Every economic indicator tells us that they are failing at present. How can we possibly trust this form of government? It's not just about Essex and who we feel should or shouldn't be in charge of that Essex County Council. It's the very nature of that type of government is not able to deliver the economic successes that can come from devolution. And that is why we are proposing this, not just as a way of no longer being tied by the decisions made by Essex, but enabling our residents to see that a council that is close to them, that is elected by them, that has full control over their taxpayers' money, can deliver the services that they need and that can be understood on a much more local level, while allowing the prosperity, the economic growth, the infrastructure that can come from having a devolution deal as well. And through local government, through the savings that we can make, we will have a much better devolution deal, that the money is coming back to this council, back to Basildon. It will be far more benefit to our residents than without local government reform. So I think it's important that we understand that without local government reform, we will not have the full benefits that devolution can bring. With that, councillors, I'd like to take us to the recommendations. The recommendations are on page 1208. All those in favour? Thank you. Please don't listen. We are now going to item agenda 12, which is the Capital Investment Strategy Interim Report, which I believe is going to be me again. It's a good job I made some notes tonight, isn't it? Okay, guys, this can be found on page 1215. Okay. I apologise for the brief nature of my notes, but I wasn't expecting to introduce this. Hopefully we can all get through this evening, and hopefully you've all read the report thoroughly and can continue to contribute. Okay, so Basden Borough Council's Capital Investment Strategy interim report outlines the Council's treasury management activities over the first half of the fiscal year, ending in September 2024. The strategy adheres to the CIPFA Code of Practice and ensures that the management of cash flows, borrowing and investment activities while balancing the risk control and performance of this organisation. The Council's Section 151 officer oversees this financial activity to ensure that there is flexibility, but there is also prudent strategy in response to challenging economic circumstances that are forever changing, and ensuring that we are responsive to any risk management that needs to take place. The report meets the Council's code requirements for a mid-year review and details compliance and statutory financial obligations. The interim report reflects the Council's commitment to securing funds for the corporate plan initiatives while minimising financial costs. Councillors, do we have any comments on this agenda item? No? Councillor Baggott, would you like to comment at this time?
Not at this time, Madam Chairman, just to say thank you to the officers that worked diligently to produce the financial strategy at the end of the day. They've always done a diligent job, and I have no reason to think they won't continue to do so under your administration.
I'd just like to add my thanks to Owen and his team for all the work you've done, particularly when we considered the gap, the 1.6 million that we were left with by the previous administration, and the financial challenges we have at this time, facing the previous Liz Truss budget, rising interest rates, and the economic problems that we have encountered over the last 12 months. It's really impressive the work that Owen and his team have done to ensure that we are moving towards a situation where this council is once again financially stable and viable, and we can produce a set of services that meet the requirements of our residents. This is just for noting, so if any other councillors wish to speak, we will move on to the next agenda item. Sorry guys, I'm just looking for my right page. Sorry guys, I've lost one of my stickers. Okay, Basden Town Centre Management, transfer of control. Give me 1 second guys. Sorry guys, I'm just trying to get my notes back up. Okay, so the objective of transferring control, this agenda item discusses the proposal to transfer control of Basden Town Centre Management to an external management body, aiming to improve operational efficiency, boost local economic growth and streamline decision making. The goal is to create a more agile management structure that can respond quickly to the needs of local businesses and businesses while supporting the council's strategic regeneration efforts. Sadly, that's all my notes on that. I think we're all clear that over time we have had a situation where our decision-making process has been stalled, has been made more difficult because of this. And by changing the control mechanisms of it, it enables us to be more dynamic, more agile, and to take decisions far more quickly that are of benefit when we are talking about the way in which we manage our town centres. Councillors, do we have anyone wishing to speak? Councillor Smith.
So we've gone from Baz exit to taking back controls. Good, this, isn't it? No, it's just common sense to get control of this. It's when you look at the long-standing decline of the retail in Basden Town Centre and the rise of retail around the A127 and Mayflower, it's about the parking. Now we have options because, and I don't say this to dig, but in the past when we've seen Christmas free parking in Wickford and Billericay, it's been really good for those shops up there. And people have said to me, oh, why can't we do that in Basildon? council doesn't own the car parks. Now, this is an option, should we wish to take that, develop some of the sites and run the car parks. But again, there are options, there will be further debates, there will be decisions made, consultations held. But it just makes sense to take these back in hand. And those who was involved with that sharp practices at Westgate car park will remember that residents were getting stung by sharp practices there by a privately owned, privately operated car park. But at least that car park's now under our control, so if anyone's getting stung, they can see us, and we can have words and sort it out. So, yeah, I can see this only being a positive step. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. I think it's important to note that it's not just the car parks, it's where our market is, it's across our town centre, and that we can make decisions far easier to regenerate and to do what we need to get done within the town centre to ensure that it does thrive. You know, our town centre, it's quite bizarre calling it a new town when it's 75 years old. But we don't want decline. We don't want managed decline that we have seen. What we want is to be able to grow and thrive and to see what could be next for Basildon Town Centre. And that is not possible unless we do this transfer, because it ties our hands and it slows down the process. And we are ambitious for our town centre and we need to see this change. Councillor Yacoub, you were indicating?
I'd just like to say, as ward member as well for St Martin's, I think this is the right move. I think when it comes to the market, the car parks, the public realm areas, rightfully residents look at that and they think that the council is in control of it and the council is in charge of it, and they come to us with issues that we're not able to, you know, have a very kind of simple, direct solution to, because we're not in charge of these areas which are really important to our residents. And I think that it is really important that we do this and we bring this into the council's control, because BTCM is not at the moment in a place where it's futuristic and it's thinking about the future of our town centre, and that falls on us as a council, and we need to make sure that we have the power to do that. So really welcome this move.
Thank you. Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to echo the comments from Councillor Yacoub just there, that as a St Martin's Ward councillor, I think this is the right thing for our town centre. Just last week, I was speaking on a panel about public art across our borough, and one of the questions, I was asked several questions around particular projects or activities, and I was trying to answer the question around how we can engage and promote this a lot more. But residents couldn't believe when I was explaining the disjointed and convoluted sometimes decision-making process that's involved. So being able to incorporate BTCM as part of the council and being able to allows us really to respond to those challenges, being able to provide quicker decision-making, being able to speak with one voice to residents and businesses across the town centre, I think is really important. And I think just finally on this item, I think what we've been able to show through all of the agendas tonight, Madam Deputy Chair, is that we're an administration that is looking forward and future-proofing our town centre, future-proofing the borough, to make sure that this borough is in the best possible position that it can be to thrive.
I'd also say, you know, it's important for us to note that this is a way in which we can communicate as well with those stakeholders in the town centre far more effectively, because we will have more control. And we talked earlier about the importance of messaging and communication and listening. This will give us more ability to be able to do that. Councillor Baggott.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I think when this item came to Cabinet previously, I said then that the principle I agreed with. And as people have said, it makes sense. It is common sense. The only concern I have is capacity, because we are taking two pretty senior officers and making them directors of BTCM. Now, we only have so much time in the day. They've got responsibilities. So I would just say that we need to be aware that the pressures we are putting certain officers on when we're asking them to divide their time between an important role within the council and a separate role outside the council.
Thank you. Noted, Councillor Baggott. I am sure that risk management and due diligence has been done, and that our officers are fully aware of the responsibility and that their expertise is able to fulfil that role. But thank you, I appreciate you noting that. Any other councillors? Officers, is there anything that you wish to comment about this?
Nothing on that,
yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, with that, take you to the recommendations. These can be found on page 1238. All those in favour? now got We now need to vote to exclude press and public from the meeting in order to be able to go into part 2. All those in favour? Thank you. And we will now stop our broadcast to be able to go into our part 2 discussion.